And here's our story for today. And while they were there, the time came for her to give birth. And she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling cloths and laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the inn. Friends, it's finally arrived. The day is here. After all these days and weeks of anticipation, Christ's child is here. Merry Christmas. And in honor of his birthday, we light the fifth candle, the white one. It's called the purity candle, and it's also known as the Christ candle, because today we celebrate the birth of the Christ child. And his parents celebrated him too. 40 days later, they took him to the temple to dedicate him to the Lord. Now that day in the temple, we know that there were two people there. One was a man by the name of Simeon. And we don't know if Simeon was a young man or an old man. It really doesn't matter, because what we do know is that the Lord had told him that he wouldn't die until he saw the Christ child with his own eyes. And when he saw Jesus, he gathered him in his arms and he said these words to the Lord, "Lord, now you are letting your servant depart in peace according to your word. For my eyes have seen your salvation." He called Jesus the salvation. Now there was a second person, an older woman, and we do know she was older. She served the Lord for many years in that temple. And when she saw the Christ child, she called him the redemption of the world. So we have the salvation of the world and the redemption of the world. How can this be? This Christ child that they were observing would one day exchange his cradle, which was the manger, for the cross, which was his glory. And on that cross, he would suffer your death and mine. He would suffer our punishment in our stead. He would suffer it so that we don't have to. And best of all, 3 days later, he rose again from the dead and conquered death once and for all. And so through the forgiveness of sins earned on that cross, and through the resurrection and the new life that is ours, he is now the salvation and the redemption of the world. This Christmas, I pray that you will remember why this Jesus came. He came so that you might live. He came to die so that we might live. And so this Christmas, I pray that as you ponder and treasure up the things of Christmas, that you will recall the love of a God who sent his Son to die and rise again for you, so that you could live with him forever in heaven. And so I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful celebration of the Christ child's birth. Merry Christmas.